In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, James Barlowe that is, we are going to talk about Matas Buzelis calling out Zaccharie Risacher in the pre-draft process. He's asking for a one-on-one matchup. We're going to share our thoughts on that and why I don't think it's a bad idea for Matas to call out Risacher. I know we are in the middle of the Final Four. We are going to preview the top NBA prospects in next week's showdown coming up soon, but this episode is all about Matas Buzelis and Zaccharie Risacher. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I am your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board. And my co-host for today is none other than my brother James. He is the VP of NBA Big Board, but we got some big things coming up on NBA Big Board you do not want to miss. This is going to be the summer of separation. But anyway, I want to let you know, if you're not subscribed to the channel, like, share, comment, subscribe. Make sure you click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop content. Because like I said, we got some big things coming up this summer. We'll be all over the country interviewing prospects, getting live footage from their workouts, sit downs, one-on-ones. We got some cool things planned. But this episode is about the pre-draft process. Now, if you came in looking for content about the Final Four, we got you. We have a lot of stuff to talk about this week preparing for the Final Four. But I wanted to talk about Zaccharie Risacher and really Matas Buzelis calling out Zaccharie Risacher. I know this came out a few days ago. I was on the plane back from Dubai when it dropped, and I had Wi-Fi on the plane. I probably spent like 3 or 4 hours just tweeting about it. Some people really thought it was dope for Matas to call him out. They like, hey, I like that competitive fire. And then there were people that just thought it was pointless and useless. I want to touch on that. All right, James, before we get into it, what are your thoughts on Matas Buzelis calling out Zaccharie Risacher?
Hey, man, you know me. I'm all for it. I love it. I love competition. I love guys, challenging guys. I like that Matas is like, hey, it's him. He's you guys say he's better than me. I want you to prove it. So I love it. I'm a big fan of competition, especially in the draft process. We've talked about it before where you say, oh man, if I was his agent, I wouldn't have him do this, or if I was his agent, I'd have him doing this. I am a fan of what Matas is doing, or at least is what he's trying to do. Will Risacher take him up, or I should say, will Risacher's people take him up on it? I highly doubt it, but I think that this says a lot about Matas's character and his toughness and his willingness to compete.
Do you think it's really him? Like, do you think he really feels that way, or is this a call out? Before we get into that, let me go back. Let me rewind and let everyone know that is happening. So Matas Buzelis, who is one of the top prospects in this class, did an interview with Basket News, which is an international basketball site. I think the owner of the site is from Lithuania. Matas has Lithuanian ties. He's actually, I think, doing a camp in Lithuania coming up this week. So they did an interview, and he mentioned that he would like to challenge Zaccharie Risacher, who was projected as the #1 pick on ESPN's mock draft, to a one-on-one showdown. And this is a quote. This is not from us. This is a quote. Of course, I want to see him one-on-one. He just doesn't want to do that with me. His agent will not do that with me. And I know he won't. It's a business decision. And then he goes on to say, my advantage is that I have everything over him. Yeah, I really was shocked that he said that. And so they asked him about the opportunity to compete against each other. And he says, I try not to look at it. It's obviously there, but I see it. I try to stay in the zone. I know what I'm capable of. And I don't look at what number I am. I know if I'm better, then I'm winning. That's when he basically talked about seeing where his name is at on the draft boards. So I thought it was, one, courageous. I thought that it did show some competition or just wanting to compete. And there were some people that were totally against it. They were like, the game is 5-on-5. What is 1-on-1? And then it turned into like this whole thing of, see, you American players only want to play 1-on-1, yada, yada, yada. I'll touch on that later. But first thing I want to say is it's one, I like it. I like the fact that he wants to go man to man, compete, may the best man win. Two, this is what the pre-draft process is about. If you are a team, you want to see guys play ones. No, 1-on-1 is not going to determine who's going to be the better NBA player, but you get to see competitive fire. You get to see who's like can get a bucket. And to me, it's important for me because if I'm going to take a guy in the top 5, especially a wing, I want to see if you can create your own shot and if you can get buckets at the end of the shot clock. It's always been my theory at the top of the draft. That's why I was like, and you can go back and look at the old episodes. I was firm on Banchero is going to be the number 1 pick in the, what was it, 22 draft?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was the best shot maker. So anyway, with that being said, 1-on-1 in the pre-draft process is not unheard of. And I think people think, oh, 1-on-1 is like street ball where they're just gonna roll the ball out and just play 1-on-1. No,
Back
you make it,
down, back down,
yeah,
back down.
you make it situational, 2 dribbles, 3 dribbles. You may make it into the shot clock. You may make it so that it's realistic game like. And we've trained players, and I've trained bigs and guards at the same time. And I used to always have guys play 1-on-1 at the end of the workout. Why? Because if you're a big, you may get switched out on the guard at the top of the key. So you got to know how to move your feet and defend in space. And if you're a guard, you better know how to attack a big when you're switched. So to me, 1-on-1 is not like street ball 1-on-1. You make it situational. So with all that being said, and I know you touched on it, if you had to choose who you think would win this 1-on-1 matchup, who are you going with?
Based off the film that I've seen, I mean, you got to go with Matas. I mean, like, he's not Brandon Ingram by any means off the dribble, but from what I've seen, he has shown more than Risacher. So, like, I feel like it's a win-win for him because Cody Williams is probably, I would like to see him call him out, but they may say Cody isn't as high, or maybe he's just looking solely at the ESPN mark and
Yep, that's
saying,
what I
okay,
think.
that's the guy right there, and it's a perfect call out because I know you talked about it in the past. Uh, you've questioned Matas's like toughness or competitive fire, right? And then we went and saw him at the G League Ignite game here in Texas. Like he was competing on both sides of the glass or both ends of the floor, excuse me. He tries to rebound, he'll block the shots. Like that was already a plus even before he came out with this quote. And now I'm like, you know what, man? I like Matas, man. Like he still can, he still may be, permanent potential at certain things because he has flashes of doing things and he's not shooting the ball as well, but the competitive fire is exactly what I would want to see. To me, it's more than just challenging a guy 1-on-1. That sounds like somebody who wants to get better as well, too. He's going to challenge himself. Even if Ricochet doesn't accept the challenge, which I doubt that he does, but like that sounds like to me like somebody understands that I have to get better. I want to get better. I'm going to push myself to get better.
Do you think this is how he really feels, or do you think this is a tactic by his agents to address some of the concerns for people that say that he doesn't have a motor and he's not the most competitive guy?
You know what? I don't care because it's out there, right?
Yep.
And he could easily say, "Nah, I don't want to do that," because at this in this time frame, like the agent 1000% works for the client, right? And he's going to steer him in any direction. If Mata says, I don't want to do that, then I mean the agent could just say, okay, that's fine, we'll figure something else out. But like, I don't care who said it, I don't care whose idea it is. Like, it came out. He didn't like refute anything. Like he said it whether he has a battery in his back or not, like it's out there. And I like that kind of energy.
All right, when we return, I'm going to talk about why I think this is a strategic ploy on Modes's part, but I don't think Risa Shea is the target. I think that Risa
Mm.
Shea is being used as an example But the person that he really wants to call out, I'll let you know who I think it is. All right, before I get into that segment, which is going to be interesting, I want to talk to you about Prize Picks because Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and the most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. All you have to do is pick more or less than two or more player stats, and you can watch the winnings roll in. March is pretty much over, but the biggest moments in college basketball tip off in April. So be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both the men's and women's college basketball. So you can get in on the playoff action, and you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. The NBA playoffs start in, I guess the play-in is like April 16th, 17th, and 19th. You got the playoffs on the 20th. I mean, April is where it's all at, and you want to get in on Prize Picks because you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into 1,000. That is a great flip. With basketball, hockey, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, which is America's #1 fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com, use the code locked on NBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/locked on NBA. You can get a first deposit match up to $100. I got a question for you, the listener. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? And you have to turn down the volume because all they're doing is shouting? Well, you can make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free, extra emphasis on free, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week sports streaming channel that is programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. You've never heard me and James scream at each other. But Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and for free on the Amazon Fire TV channels app, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we left off the last segment talking about Matas calling out Zaccharie Risacher. I talked about why I think it's good. And it doesn't even have to be bad for the loser. I don't think if you lose the game, you come out bad because if they play like the best out of 5 and Risacher wins 3, but they compete, I think that is a good look for both parties because you want to see guys compete.
Yeah, you could win and lose at the same time if you're Risacher. So like,
or anybody,
in a sense,
yeah.
If in a sense, like, okay, we know you don't have the one-on-one creativity, or maybe you do, but if you don't, like, you can make him work on defense, right? Like, you can show that. And if he beats you, like, and he works extremely hard, now you up your value as a competitor and as a defender.
Yeah, and I think you can win and lose at the same time. And I don't think in this matchup we'd see it, but an example of someone winning and losing at the same time is if there's a stronger player who doesn't really have any, I guess, bag or say offensive creativity, and then he wins by just backing the guy down.
Yeah.
I think you can win the matchup and lose because that's not going to be your role. But I
Right.
also think, like I said, it just shows competitive fire. I mean, to me, that's what the pre-draft process should be about. Teams want to see guys that want to compete. I actually heard a story a few weeks ago, and it's just totally unrelated. There was a guy that was in last year's draft, and they were playing 2s and 1s, and then it just didn't take guys long to figure out that he couldn't dribble. So he was getting exposed every time they played 2-on-2, 1-on-1, 3-on-3. The guys that were defending him just got all up in his chest, made him put the ball because the guy was a good shooter, made him put the ball on the floor. He couldn't dribble. And then his agent was like, once he started getting exposed in workouts, he started like trying to cancel workouts. My ankle
Ankle
sore
start
too
hurting.
much. What's that?
His ankle start hurting.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. So guess what happened? Teams started noticing that he started backing out of workouts, and then teams do talk, and it got out that he was starting to get exposed because his handle wasn't tight. Now, on one hand, if you're an agent, you want to avoid that. So I get it from that point of view, from the agency point of view. You want to hide your player as much as possible because this particular player was like he wanted to do one-on-none workouts because he was injured. But from a team perspective, man, you want to see these guys compete. You just want to see like what these guys look like under pressure. Because in reality, this is a it's like a job interview, but it's like you and another man that could be separating you from this team selecting you. So I would want to see it. But with all that being said, I really think Matas is being strategic in who he's calling out. Risacher is like the pawn in this whole
Mm,
situation. I think he's really calling out ESPN. That's who I think he's calling out.
talk
Because
to me. Elaborate on that.
well, because my Risacher is number one on ESPN's board,
Okay.
and and ESPN has been very critical of the Ignite, the players on the
Mm,
Ignite, and the whole program, which is weird because ESPN is a partner with the NBA, and the NBA decided to shut down the Ignite. But I think this is more so like a shout out at ESPN, which is the biggest platform. And it's like you calling them out. Like, okay, if this is your guy, tell your guy to meet me one on one and then report
mm,
that. So that's what I think this is really, really about.
Matas, diabolical. Okay. I can see that. I can see it. It makes sense.
So let's talk about this. Risa Shea said that it's a business decision. All right. If you are, I'm sorry, Mata
So
said
is
this is a
okay,
business
okay.
decision for Risa Shea's agent not to do it. If you are Risa Shea's agent, what do you do?
First off, I'm Reese Shea. Look, again, I'm not him, obviously, but you just can't call me out like that. Like I'm on the next plane smoking, like see me. But that's just I grew up playing one on one. Shoot, a middle school kid can see me at the gym and look at me the wrong way, and I'm gonna take it personal. But that's just me. But I don't. I mean, go repeat the question for me. I got off on a tangent.
So the question is, if you're Risa Shea's agent, how do you handle this? Do you ignore it or do you step up and accept it?
It could go both ways. And if I'm Reese Shea, his agent, I'm saying, hey man, we have to accept the challenge. I'll probably create some kind of, whatever saying, man, they think us Europeans are soft, and here's your opportunity to prove that we not soft. I don't necessarily think they think like that. That just may be an American mindset, and they may just say, we're a team player. I've seen guys on Twitter say, ha ha ha, you can say that your season's over. I got something to play for. But no, like I felt like Victor with it. And that's Victor. Victor's a totally different animal. But I feel like if I'm his agent, the smart thing to do after I calm down and gather myself, we're just gonna ignore it. We're just gonna be like, hey man, we got bigger fish to fry. We're trying to win, playoff games over here. You at home, get ready for the draft. We're not thinking about the draft right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's the smart way to handle things. But I personally wouldn't handle it smart or the right way because I'm competitive and that's how we, grew up playing basketball. But I understand why he would do it and I understand why he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, Risa Shea's team is, I mean, they're still playing, they're still competing. And one way, or another reason why I think this was kind of strategic is because if you remember correctly, last year, Victor's team went so far into the French finals that he didn't, I mean, he wasn't going to work out for anybody anyway, but they
Right.
literally had to, the finals were like a couple days before the draft, and Risa Shea's team could very well be in the French finals, which if they're in the French finals, he's not going to have time to work out for any team anyway. So it
Right.
could have been strategic, like, I'm gonna call this guy out to
Knowing I'm not
basically
gonna see him.
knowing that I'm not gonna see him because if
Mm.
they go on a deep playoff run, he's not gonna have time anyway. So that could have been part of the play. All right, when we return, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this potential one-on-one showdown. I want to talk a little bit about Matas's confidence. We're going to talk about the draft projections, and then we're just going to talk about Risa Shea's current status as he is playing for a team that is competing in the Euro Cup, and his team is ranked fourth in the French league. So he's probably not worried about this at all. Stay tuned. Let's talk about Amazon Fire TV because Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free live TV. So whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the NCAA tournament, you are going to want to have Fire TV. And Fire TV recently created the Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for what? Free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports, whether it's March Madness, NBA, Major League Baseball, and more. And not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, trust me, you should. Trust me. Trust me on this because we're on there. To learn more, visit amazon.com/locked on Fire TV. All right, last segment. I want to get your opinion. We touched on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Matas's confidence. Like, to me, I like it. Like I said, I like it. I like the confidence behind it to publicly call somebody out. I think it shows teams, even if it's like false confidence, but it shows teams that he wants to compete. When you first saw this or read this, what were your initial thoughts?
I thought it was fake, man. I
Yeah,
thought it
people
was,
thought because it was on Basket News, and I follow
yeah.
Basket News, and so when I retweeted it, I think it kind of picked up a lot of buzz in the States because
Mm-hmm.
most people aren't really following international basketball sites. So I had people in my DMs from different that cover different teams are like, "Is this real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's real." And then after that, kind of got picked up, and so the owner of the site sent me a message in my DMs and was kind of we just kind of shared our thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
Matas and his confidence, but yeah, it was real deal Holyfield.
Yeah, I thought it was fake. I looked at because I saw it. I think I was in the airport on the layover. I was like, man, Ralph got man. He over here retweeting some fake stuff.
Thought I got hit
But
with the Woj
yeah, 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 yeah,
WOD.
yeah. The Woj
Hey, they got people with
Ranowski.
that fake Derrick Rose retirement last week.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was fake. But like you said, man, I like it. And whether his confidence is real or if it's the agent or not, I like it. And I don't, and let me backtrack a little bit. I don't want to sit here and say Ricochet is not competitive, but you have to be smart as well as competitive. So I don't want to sit here and have my French homies talking about, we are competitive and this, that, and the other, but I get both sides of it. But like I said, I like it a lot. Um, I wish we could, well, obviously we're not going to see the workout, but I wish that it would happen and maybe we get a story about it, I don't know, 3, 4 years later, saying called dude out and whatnot. Like we get the Bam story, how he cussed out the Heat. So, but no, I like it, and I wish more guys would do it. And I want to ask you, do you think that Matas opened the doors for other guys to publicly call out other guys? Because now it's like it might be cool to do it, and we'll see who's gonna take it into account. Because like if I'm Cody Williams, I'm like, nah, I'm right here in the States. You know what I'm saying? Like you could really put the pressure on Modest's people and Modest to see if he's really confident, if this is really him saying this, you can Cody Williams call him out. Whoever else at that wing position call him out to see like, hey man, like let's do it, let's set it up. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it can get tricky because think about it, it's like if Jadon Ladie start calling people out, ain't nobody gonna step up to that. You
I
know what
mean,
I
nobody's,
mean?
but that's obviously, but that's like when, no disrespect to Jay Donald, but when like J.R. Ryder rapped on the control beat, it's like, all right, man, come on now, we wanted to hear.
Well, I mean, because I just don't think anybody's gonna beat Jadon Ladie in
That's
one
true
on
too.
one. So I
That's
mean,
true too.
if he called out Matas or whoever, he's gonna put him under the basket and punished him. So
Or you look at my man Jameer Watkins. Like nobody's gonna take that challenge, right? Because he's
yeah,
probably not gonna lose a one-on-one battle against any small forward in the draft
yep.
because
So here's a couple things
he can't guard him like that.
yeah, here's a couple things that people were talking about. They were like, it just turned into like this conversation between like European basketball and you Americans like to play one on one. It's a 5-on-5 game, and that's valid. But the best European players got one
Play
on one game.
one.
Like to me, it was like, how do you say you're like you don't like the NBA one on one style, but you're a Luka Doncic fan? Like Luka can play both ways, but if I'm not mistaken, Luka leads the NBA in isolation, so he's a one on one player. Jokic, yeah,
Step
step
back,
back. I mean,
crossover. Yeah,
he
like
calls
that's
his
one-on-one
number a
basketball.
lot. Shingun, if when it comes down to it, he knows how to play team basketball. But when it comes down to it, you want to give the ball to him at the end of the shot clock. He can get you one. Jokic can get you one. So
Giannis,
Giannis can. I mean, this I wouldn't say he got like, but he can score. You give it
hey,
to him at
he's
the end
gonna
of the
put
shot clock.
pressure on the rim. That's still
Yeah,
one-on-one
he's gonna
skill.
get fouled.
But you know what, though,
Franz
Raf?
Wagner
That's
also
what I was
is
gonna
another
say.
one.
You
Yeah.
brought up a perfect example. Okay, we talked about the superstar European players, but like, Franz is a borderline all-star. He'll probably be an all-star a couple years down the line, but
Yeah.
he's got one-on-one game.
Yeah, he can score. He can do both. So to me, it's not necessarily a thing of only Americans like to play one on one. Because, like I said, the best European players outside of like Gobert got one on one work that they can score when needed. Another thing that I thought was very interesting was people were just saying like, it's kind of pointless. So why would you call them out? French players, that's not our style of play. And I'm like, you know what? People forgot that there was this kid by the name of Victor Wembanyama, who last year
Mhm.
had started his season. And I don't know if people really thought about this. Like, if you just sit and think about this, there was a talk early last season that Scoot Henderson could possibly challenge Victor. I mean, it wasn't a lot of people talking about it, but there was people that were saying that, any other draft, Scoot would be the number one pick, yada, yada, yada. I think Scoot even said he deserved to be number one. I don't think people realize, Victor saw that. Victor is this fiery, uber confident competitor wrapped in like,
Dog.
yeah, he's like this super competitive guy wrapped in like a bow tie. You know what I mean? You don't look at him and see. I mean, he is more to him than what you see. But if you think about it, the Mets were already in season. They had already. I mean, their preseason started in like August, September. They were in season. Victor, whoever brought it to the table, was like, "Yeah, dog, I'll come over to the States. I'll play Scoot in his home arena in front of
Mm,
everybody on ESPN just to let people know that
just
I
not
run
come.
this. Like
Yeah.
this is my
Hey,
block. I'm the number one pick, and don't debate it." And it
he's,
happened.
and he's still like that too. Look, it wasn't no accident. He threw that basketball in the stands when
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson had 61. That wasn't an accident, man. Look, I said something earlier. I think he blocked Giannis' shot when they played, and
Oh
he
yeah.
did dab Giannis side after the game, and somebody was like, "Oh man, that was an accident." Nah, man.
No, there's
I don't think Vic likes anybody, and I think he reads everything. I think he hears everything. I think he understands that people don't want to see a European player. Some people, I don't want to say everybody. Some people don't want to see a European player ascend to that all-time great status.
speaking of that.
And
Did you see what Tony Kukoc said?
yo, old heads, man, it's gotta be like I don't no disrespect, man. There's got to be some
No,
kind of
this that's
dementia that kicks off.
Tony Kukoc. If you missed it, Tony Kukoc said, despite the statistics,
Dino Roger was
Dino
smoking
Radja and
cigarettes,
Vlade
man.
Divac are better than Nikola Jokic. But if you go back, that era, those guys that were, adults of the 90s, there was some war going on between those countries. And I think that is
Hey, man.
lingering from like the Croatian and Slovenian and
Rah.
Croatian
Nobody
and
hates
Serbian
basketball
wars.
more. Nobody hates basketball more than somebody born before 1975.
Oh, I won't say the guy's name. I don't want to go viral, but there was a borderline Hall of Fame NBA player that has won multiple championships that told me his heyday was in the 80s. He was a top 5 pick in one of the drafts in the 80s.
I know you're talking about.
Told me Kevin Garnett could not start for the Celtics in the 80s. And he told me Carmelo couldn't play in the 80s. He said the only guys, and this was probably like 5 years ago we had the conversation, but he said the only guys from this era, or it's not even this era, like the the Dirk, the Kobe, that era. He said there's only like 5 guys that could be all stars, and he was like Dirk. He's like, cause nobody can block him shooting behind his head at 7 foot. He said LeBron. He said Zach Randolph because he played like how they play, physical. Um, oh man, I forgot. Kobe. Did I say Kobe? Kobe,
Nah,
LeBron, Dirk, Zach Randolph, and it was one more. And he was saying like if Carmelo played in the 80s, he'd be like a 6 man. It was it was crazy. So anyway, yes, people
nope.
from certain generations
No,
just
they hate
really they they,
basketball.
they don't like anything that's new. And I get it. People are going to protect and stick to their era.
Nah, I
With
don't
that
get it.
being said though, I mean like going back to this, Risacher and Matas, it's like some people they want to claim Matas as Lithuanian, but
Nah,
then
he
when you
with us
call them
after he
out,
said that.
they claim that this was an American style of play. But like I said, Victor Wembanyama is French, and he like in the most subtle way took the challenge, but he did it on a national stage on ESPN. So it's almost like we've seen it, but I just don't think people realize that we actually saw it last year because remember, the Mets were in season. Like they flew across the Atlantic Ocean in the not it wasn't in the middle of their season, at the start of their season, to play an exhibition game between 2 draft picks, all because Victor in his camp was like, no, I'm gonna show you that there's nobody close to me in this class.
And I love that energy, man. Let's keep that up.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see more. I definitely want to see guys. I mean, not necessarily always call guys out, but I think the NBA was tired of guys like missing the combine and not doing. And I think teams also not showing out for workouts. I mean, I think last year, Kaysen and Nick Smith, I want to say they worked out for Toronto, but I
Hmm.
also heard that there was a bunch of guards in that range that teams couldn't get them all to work out together because guys were kind of ducking. But I wanted to talk about Risa Shea and his team. Like he has something to play for. So
Hmm.
if it doesn't happen, I don't want people to think that he's scared that he's running. His team
Right.
is competing in the Euro Cup. They have a chance to be in the championship of the French league. The French season runs long. So there's a really good possibility that he may want the challenge. He may want to do it, but he just won't be able to do it for his because of his schedule. So
You
I
gotta
don't
at
want
least say he has to at least like clap back with it, man. You at home on your couch, something, man.
that would be great. That would be great because I'm sure the NBA, I mean, they don't want guys beefing online on social media like Michael Beasley and Nate Robinson. That was hilarious. But I do think like rivalries is what makes the sport in the sense.
Rivalries
Magic
just
and Bird.
yeah, that's why
Not
we're
saying these guys are gonna be Magic and Bird, but rivalries do drive, I mean, as far as in this era content. And so I think it would be good to have guys really wanting to battle it out in the pre-draft process.
I 100% agree. Like I said, I'm all for it. If you're not gonna do it, Reese said you gotta at least come with the slick, clap back. That's what I would do. You
I
know what
would
I'm
be like 2 and 30.
saying? Right. I,
I
I,
would
I
post,
do the Will piece of paper with his field goal percentage
yeah,
on there.
that's what I would post. Like, what's
Like
Mata shooting? Like
something, man.
27% from three. I would do something like that. Just make it
Yeah, you
entertaining.
gotta come back, man.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. I know we are in the middle of the Final Four and all that. We will have a preview of all the top prospects that will be playing in next week's Final Four. And then next week, we're going to talk about some guys who probably help their draft stock, and some guys whose draft stock may have been hurt a little bit by their play in the NCAA tournament. I understand you got to go by the whole body of work, but sometimes, as a scout told me today, you can't unsee what you last saw. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming for you. Once again, it's Rafael with my brother James, and we are out of here.